Thank you for listening to PoliticalStorm.com. I'm John Small. Today we've got a special guest, Dr. Tom Borelli, going to be talking about energy, and is energy a path to victory for Trump? First, let's say hello to Tom. Dr. Tom, how are you, sir?
Hey, John. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're glad to have you on the program. And now let's talk a little bit, first of all, about your background, because you've got quite a background here, and you've worked kind of in the energy field for quite some time, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been commenting on energy, I guess, for the past 10 years. And before that, I worked for a number of policy groups, as well as working about over 25 years for corporate America. So I've seen a lot, and I also spent 1 year as a congressional staffer working in the House Science Committee. So I know a little bit about science, politics, and energy.
And then you also have done some things where you've had a chance to work with your wife as well. My wife and I work together, so I can certainly relate to that. But what is it that you've done with your wife?
Oh, absolutely. Well, my wife and I, we substitute hosts on SiriusXM satellite Patriot Radio on their conservative channel, on the Patriot channel. And, we'd also do a podcast together. It's at the Conservative Review site, and her page is called The Buzz.
Nice.
Do a podcast, yes.
Well, very, very cool. So now let's talk about energy and how this could be the path to the White House for Donald Trump. Why is it that you feel that might be a good path for him?
Well, first of all, Donald Trump's position on energy is vastly different than all his competition. And just yesterday or the day before, Gary Johnson weighed in and said he's a fan of a carbon tax, which would be a tax on energy. And we know Hillary Clinton, from her own statements in Ohio, I guess that was in March, she said she would be, her policies would bankrupt the coal industry and send more coal miners to the unemployment line. And she also said she was against fossil fuels, and with respect to fracking, which is the process that has unleashed an immense amount of oil and natural gas from underneath our land, from the shale rock, she said she would regulate it to such a degree very little of it would happen. So obviously that's a strong anti-energy approach, and Donald Trump's is actually the opposite. He wants a moratorium on regulations. He wants to see more coal mining, and he also wants to see more development on federal lands. And, that would unleash a boom for energy development and jobs. But with respect to the election, it would be really important for the swing states. I'm talking about Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, West Virginia, where energy production is so important. So that gives him an opportunity, if he chooses to really advertise his positions on pro-energy as a way to distinguish himself from the competition.
Definitely. And that's something that I think is really important. Most of the people who are listening to this are listening on some sort of device powered by energy. Okay, everybody is, unless they have some magic radio that doesn't require energy. That energy has to come from somewhere. And every day we have more and more devices that we use to make our lives easier. But each one of these devices, they require energy. Now, that has to come from somewhere. And if we've got a candidate right now that's proud of the fact that she's going to close down the coal mines and proud of the fact that she's not going to allow fracking, which honestly is such a great thing. It happens in the state of South Dakota, or state of North Dakota, rather, which is just above the state I live in. And there was a huge boom there for a long time. Things have slowed down a lot, and I know there are people that are very concerned about the outcome of this election because it's going to make a huge difference, not just on their local economy, but the entire region in the areas where they have these things that are impacted.
Oh, absolutely. The direct impact, obviously, would be for the workers in the fracking field as well as in the coal mining field. And the coal mining field has already had, a number of bankruptcies. But that's basically on that job side. On the other side is the consumer. What we do know is, because of fracking, oil and natural gas prices have come down here in the United States. And that ends up putting more disposable income in every American's pocket. Energy is an issue that affects every American every day. While the other issues out there are very important, immigration would be one, but a lot of people don't actually feel the direct impact of illegal immigration every day, or at least perhaps most Americans don't. But energy, every day, we're impacted by energy. You pull up to the gas station, you pay that utility bill, that's money coming out of your pocket into energy. And a pro-growth energy policy would lead to more energy and then therefore cheaper energy.
And we had a blackout here at our home for about maybe 7 hours, 8 hours. This is maybe a month ago, where the power went out. There was something with the transformer, and you don't realize just how dependent on electricity we are until you go through something where you have no electricity for a short amount of time. Thank goodness it was just a few hours and we didn't lose everything in our refrigerator and freezer. There are people that have gone through much worse than that, but it certainly makes you appreciate that energy. And you have to think about, where does this stuff come from? You know, there are people who drive around now in electric cars and they say, I'm doing something good for the environment. I'm going to drive an electric car. Well, where does the electricity come from? You know, it's not like there's an electric ferry that fills that tank for you.
Well, too many progressives think the electricity just comes from the wall, from the socket.
No.
Obviously, it's much more complex than that. You know, it's traditional energy, it's oil. With electricity, it's coal, natural gas, nuclear, and a little renewable. And Hillary Clinton really wants to follow the energy policy of President Obama. He wants to pick winners and losers, wants to really harm, through regulations, the coal and natural gas industry and favor renewable. And, you know, that's certainly not a free market, and that heavy-handed approach rarely, if ever, worked.
Again, visiting right now with Dr. Tom Borelli, and again, we're talking about the fact that energy could be the path to victory for Donald Trump. Now, when you look at Donald Trump and the pick that he had for the vice presidential nominee, Governor Mike Pence, do you feel that the two of these men agree on energy, or do you feel that they have a differing in opinions on energy?
No, I think they're really right in line in energy. You know, Governor Pence is from the state of Indiana, and that state derives a lot of its electricity from coal. At one point, it used to be 90%. It's fallen from that because of Obama's regulations, but he certainly understands the impact of high energy prices, on his constituents there in Indiana, and he's very much a fan of traditional forms of energy.
It's interesting to see the partnership on the Republican side compared to the partnership on the Democrat side. And, they both chose a governor, which is kind of cool. But when you look at how they complement or contrast each other, the day that Hillary's announcement was made, I thought it was interesting. Her new running mate was talking about the email scandal, and it was kind of interesting, his comments. I don't know that he knew he was on record, but the comments were not complimentary of his new running mate, his new presidential running mate. And it was just a really interesting pick. And as you look at those two, I think the Trump and Pence team, I think it's a pretty darn solid team.
No, it's good to have, someone who's actually worked in government as a chief executive. And again, energy is one of those issues. Look, let's face the facts. Donald Trump isn't very popular, but neither is Hillary Clinton. So at the end of the day, every American should sit down and say, how are these people going to affect if they become president, how are they going to affect my family? And if you're in the energy production business, clearly Mrs. Clinton is willing to put you on the unemployment line. And also when it comes to energy prices, clearly Mrs. Clinton wants to raise energy prices through regulation, while Donald Trump is on the exact opposite. But sometimes I think that kind of clarity will help people really make the right decision for them and their families.
Definitely. Well, again, Dr. Tom Borelli, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
No, it's great being with you, John.
And it's weird. Usually the people that I'm talking to have a book or a TV show or something they're trying to sell, and I'm like, well, you don't really have anything you're trying to sell, but if people would like to know more about you, where would they go to find more information about you?
My writing can be found at conservativereview.com.
Well, we'll send them at least the opportunity to send them there to check you out there. Thank you again, sir.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Again, Dr. Tom Borelli, and conservativereview.com is a website where you can go learn more about him, and we appreciate you tuning in to politicalstorm.com. I'm John Small.